Not present. Thank you, Nick. We've got Marie and Larry and Mark and Tom and Patricia and Dominic and Leif and Sita, Nick and Leanne and Joan.
So we're missing Julia and Warren.
Julia and Warren, right.
And then on the MMD side, it's just Marie and
Nick.
sorry, and Nick.
Yeah.
Thank you. Helpful.
I think that the first thing that we should cover today is figuring
Wait a
out.
minute. Wait, just a second. I thought Joan was in. I thought I saw Joan in here.
Joan's
Joan
here.
is here.
Yeah, John's here.
Okay. Man, I gotta go to a different view. Full screen. Oh, there. Okay, she was. Yeah. Okay.
Is figuring out when we're going to do the app geo training. As you saw from the email from Priya, she is suggesting that next Monday is too soon for her. She suggested Thursday or Friday of next week, 10th or 11th. And Joan had suggested that we actually push it off a week to the 14th. We could do it at this time next Thursday if we wanted to. I don't know how other folks' schedules are. Sita.
I can do the 10th, but not the 11th. That's my daughter's birthday, so I have that day, completely booked for, evening for things, and the week after that is fine. As long as it's not if it's going to take a couple of hours for the training, then Monday might not work that well for me. But if I get something in advance a little bit, I can figure it out. But definitely not the 11th. But anything else, I can work around it.
I know Leif was not available either of those dates, the 10th, 11th, or 14th. So
if Larry, if it's later in the day or even in the evening of the 14th, I might be back from out of town. But I can't guarantee it. But if you did it, 5, 6 o'clock or something, I'd have a better chance of getting in.
Patricia?
I'm assuming we're going to record the session. But I guess I have a question as to why Joan wanted to push it out, so I could just understand.
Joan, do you want to take it?
Joan, you're muted. Oh,
there you go.
I think I would like to push it out because she, in her response, let it know that it was a rush for her to do it so soon.
Larry, I'll ask, did
Yes.
you get any pushback from her on doing it on the 10th, which is still just a week from today? I know she was worried about Monday the 7th, but maybe the 10th was okay with Priya?
That was one of the dates she suggested. She suggested the 10th or the 11th, later in the week, was what she said.
Looks like the 11th has some problems, but the 10th might still be doable.
Do we want to just have people raise their hands for the 10th versus the 11th versus the 14th or whatever? Just to make this go a little quicker?
And Patricia, I think you were onto something, that this is going to be taped or recorded. So because not everyone's here. So it's like if somebody misses it, then you could possibly watch the recording. There would be personal questions that, they may need to ask of her at another time, but that was a good suggestion.
I'm trying to recall exactly what she said. I think she said it would be 90 minutes. I don't think she talked about it being 2 hours. Am I wrong about that?
that was the time that she and I had talked about. Was she figures that her presentation is probably going to be about an hour, and she probably would want about a half hour for questions. So who would be available on Thursday the 10th at 4:30? I'm sorry, I didn't even realize I had blocked my camera. 3, 4. And how many would prefer the 14th at 4?
Prefer or available?
Available on Monday.
Monday, the 14th, available.
Well, that's our regular meeting time, right?
Yeah,
Right.
That's
Yes.
right.
So isn't the question more whether we
No.
should use that meeting time?
There are 7 of us here. 4 of us indicated that we would prefer it on the 10th. I'm not comfortable with going on the basis of that. So my inclination would be to push it out to the 14th. Any objection?
I just want to say I may not be able to stay for the whole 90 minutes. So if I miss some things, I'll just watch the recording, but.
All right, I will let Priya know that then. Thank you all. The first item on the agenda I sent out was the progress report that Tom had drafted. And I think that I don't know that there were any further comments on the substance or the drafting, apart from the statement that contracts have been signed by both organizations, which happens to now be true. I just found out
Okay.
yesterday that New York Law School has executed its contract, and that has been sent back to Eugenia as well. So I think that the only other question is, what would we do in terms of distribution of this? And at least my suggestion would be that we provide it to the chair and the majority leader and the minority leader and the chair of the Black Caucus of the county legislature, as well as posted on our website. Any other suggestions as to where we think this ought to go?
I just have a question.
Yes, Marie.
Is this something that's required in the law?
No, I don't believe it is.
Okay.
And I think that there can be some other uses of it as well. I think, Tom, you can provide it to the reporter that you had spoken with
Right.
as background information for him.
Well,
Is there a,
my only comment is, I mean, once we start doing it, there's probably going to be an expectation that we're going to continue to do it.
That's kind of
Agreed.
where I was going, because I'm trying to figure out with the website whether I'm just updating text or whether I'm creating a section that will have postings of these regularly.
I don't know what that meant.
It means that, is it so that when you are on the landing page of the website, right now we have text with what our current status is. We need to update that. And I can take some of what Tom had and put it on the website, and/or I can post the document somewhere on the website for people to see. And will there be, and then I guess we'd be doing that regularly, so I'll be adding it to some sort of a document repository on the website. Is that what we want to do, or just update the text from it?
I'm speaking just for myself here, but I think having periodic progress reports is a positive. It shows that we're actually doing things. I was amazed when I counted up how many meetings we've had, and the fact that we do meet at least once every week. So I think that it is a positive. I think if we put it in on the website under progress reports, and this would be, number one, dated somewhere in early February, I'm thinking.
You froze, Tom.
So I would volunteer to continue drafting it too, but I think it's something that the full group needs to go over and approve when we get to the point where it's ready to be made public.
Leif?
Just a clarification, are we talking about making public the announcement that we've executed contracts and the contracts have been awarded to the various entities we've awarded? Or are we talking about posting the contracts themselves? I would have a concern about the latter.
Leif, this is just the progress report, and there was a paragraph in that progress report that said that we had contracts now executed and we're proceeding with the council and the mapper. But it really didn't have the detail of the contracts, although my suspicion is that would be subject to FOIL if somebody wanted to FOIL it.
Right, no, that's fine.
Should I maybe make that, instead of progress reports, make it something that says public, because I mean, are we gonna do other public announcements or whatever? Because there may be other things like that we're gonna have. I mean, we've talked about before press releases and we haven't done them, but I'm assuming at certain points. So maybe I'll make it as public announcements.
I just think you make them progress reports to the legislature, post them on the website so people can read them, but you don't make that a press release.
No, I'm not saying to make it a press release. I'm saying that I'm trying to organize the website in such a way that makes sense to the public. And I was thinking that instead of making a section called progress reports, and then maybe in the future, if we have press releases, a separate category, I'm thinking of making a section that says public announcements, and it would have our progress reports as well as any, in the future, any press releases that we might have, so that I'm not having too many pathways off of the website.
Do you have a minutes section?
Well, this is one of the things that we definitely have to discuss. And I have a question here because you just referred to it as progress report for the legislature, but I thought it's just a progress report. The fact we're giving it to the legislature is secondary in my view, unless I missed something.
No, that was my understanding too. In fact, I captioned it as progress report to the public, figuring the legislature is part of the public. But I don't really have any strong feelings about the name of it, but having it in with any other announcements we make in a place that's really obvious to somebody who's coming on the website for the first time, that makes a lot of sense. So that's fine with me. But I'm thinking amongst us, we ought to consider planning on having a regular update every month that goes on our website and reports to the public and, not incidentally, the legislature about the progress we're making. I've actually got this draft report up. Patricia, if I press share screen, is that going to do it for me?
Mm-hmm. You should.
Okay. I'm going to give that a try. This is new for me. So let's do this. And then we'll do.
You're going to pick which
screen. There it is, right
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's it right there. Okay. So it does say progress report to the public. It really didn't say the legislature, and it's got the county seal up there. And then we were going to put, it says number 1 being our first, and that it's now February. So we put a date on that. The stuff that's in red is just changes that were made from the original. It's not anything, I don't think the finished product will have the red versus black text. Joan suggested we actually name, no, it's Leif, I think, that suggested we actually put in where people were appointed from. And then Joan, no, later on, I heard from Marie that when we say we've named 3 members to the MMD, we should actually put their names in. And so that's there in red. And then down here was the part about contracts being signed by both our mapper and our council. Another thing that Marie raised that was a good point was the original wording kind of said, okay, we're doing a public hearing for a listening session, but we'll have more public hearings once the maps have been drafted. And that sort of sounds like we've precluded any additional public hearings before the maps have been drafted. So I'm deleting that. And I do have a section there that says the MMD will hold its own public hearings. There is a mention in red here of this new chapter 516 of the laws of 2021, because we've learned that has a significant impact on what we're doing. And the only outstanding question I've got is this part that's in bold down here that says, what about the MMD members and activities, and would the MMD prefer creating its own report? But since this is at the beginning captioned as a report of the Redistricting Commission, and then in brackets, I had the possibility of it also being from the MMD, there's nothing that precludes us from deleting that language and just letting the MMD come out with its own report and whatever they want to call it, progress report or whatever. But I didn't know whether anybody else had any comments on that draft that we need to make changes to.
I just saw, I had read this and thought it was good, but I just saw that you misspelled my last name. It's all I's, there's no A.
Yeah, my apologies for that.
That's okay.
Yeah, you're right, there it is. Oh, I can do like she does and just go right in now and change it.
That's right.
Look at that, it's impressive. Okay, does anybody else have anything else to suggest? Because I don't want to take a lot of time with this, but I think we've had enough chance to review it that if everybody's happy with it. Marie, would you say it's accurate for me to put in here that the MMD will be reporting separately or something like that, rather than leaving the language that's in there that's kind of a question mark?
You're muted, Marie.
That would be fine.
Okay, then let's do that. And if everybody is happy with it, I don't know, Larry, if you want a formal motion to adopt this document and put it out.
I think that makes sense.
Just
Okay.
Tom, real quick, you know, where
Yeah,
you
Mark.
you did a strike through. When you do that, you'll uncapitalize the T and get rid of the parentheses, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I'll
Okay.
fix that part now that we've agreed that that should be the way Marie suggested.
Okay. No, everything else looks good. Thanks for the effort.
And I'm sorry, I didn't quite get what we're doing at the top with the MMD. Are they included in this or they're not included in this?
I'm thinking I'm taking out that whole line.
You're right.
Everything in brackets that's here at the very beginning, just that comes right out. So it becomes just the Redistricting Commission and progress report to the public, number 1, and February. Well, if we adopt it today, it'll be February 3rd.
Is there a motion to approve and to post
I
and
make-
submit it to the legislature?
I
Thank you,
make-
Patricia. Is there a second? Thank you, Leif. All in favor, raise your hand in the window. And Joan?
Still abstain.
Okay. So the vote was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor and 1 abstention.
We have 9 here. That's
No, we have only 7 here today.
Yeah, we're
I'm
missing
not,
Jewel.
I assumed I wasn't supposed to vote on it.
Yeah,
That
we
is
have
true, Nick.
Marie and
That's
Nick and
correct.
Nick and Leanna.
But we are
Okay.
missing Julia and Warren today, so that's why we only have 7.
That's correct. The next item for our discussion is date, time, and format for our first public hearing. We have talked about, although not concluded, that March 1st seems to make sense. And we talked about various times of late afternoon and early evening, again, without concluding. I guess my suggestion would be to do it from 4 to 7 p.m. on the 1st. And I think that ultimately deciding on a date and time may be the easiest part of this. Yes, Sita.
If it's virtual, then 4 to 7 would work for me. But if it's going to be I just want to, do you think it's going to be in person? Or at this point of time?
I have warned Jeff Weiss that one of the first things that we're going to need his advice on is how we carry out our business. I have every expectation that there will be a virtual component, whether it will be wholly virtual or whether it will be a hybrid, that I don't know. It is possible that we may have to do some piece in person, but I think that even if that's the case, that we can probably tag on a virtual piece.
I'm
Yes,
just
Sita.
focusing on the first meeting. If the first meeting is going to be virtual, then 4 to 7 would work for me personally. But if it's something, it's going to be driving somewhere, then I might have to reconsider the time for the first meeting. But if it's virtual, then that time frame, I can work around that. That's all I want to say.
Patricia?
I just want to note that if we were to do, for this first one, if we were to do a virtual plus in person, it's going to add a fair amount of complexity.
Unquestionably.
Larry, would you entertain a motion to say that we are going to do this first public hearing virtually? And I'm willing to actually amend that and actually say that it will be March 1st if that's appropriate. I think there's enough time to get what we need out there. I know that Joan had done the research to find out some of the lead times. It takes close to a week's advance notice to the Times Union, and we would have to do a legal notice to make it an official county public hearing. And I think that's worth doing because people do expect that there would be a legal notice about something like that. But I think one of the things we need to explore further once we've settled on the date and everything else, the fact that it's virtual, is just what kind of outreach and what kind of publicity we want to do over and above a legal notice.
Yes.
I think we noted this a couple of weeks ago that we need somebody to orchestrate this. And we don't have a subcommittee, a subgroup working on it at all. And there's a lot of moving pieces and it isn't all technical. So I think that, I agree with Tom, we should make the motion to say it's going to be virtual and March 1st, 4 to 7. But I really seriously think one of the first things that needs to happen is somebody or some working group takes ownership for driving this.
I don't disagree.
I know that the legislature has done many public hearings in the past. When we explored that a little further to see if somebody from the legislature would be the contact person, it turned out that it was Patrick Collins who was the one that does it for them. I suspect there may be somebody in the exec's office that does his public hearings, but I don't know who that would be. But somebody who's run public hearings for the county on a virtual basis would be the logical person to approach to see exactly how we do this.
So I just want to add to the conversation that yesterday, both Joan and I met with the CIO, Perry Blanchard, who appointed us a business analyst. John Wemple, I think his last name is. And we did talk about things like having the public hearing virtually. And he did compare it to what happens with the legislature and the county exec's office. And there is some things that need to get set up, some of which is through the county exec office. So there is a business analyst engaged from the IT side, but that's just the technology piece on that.
Patricia, a question. Did you talk to John about whether he's ever done one of these public hearings himself?
No, I did not. He is the business analyst for the legislature, though.
Oh,
They particularly assigned him because of the similarity between us and the legislature.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just didn't get us time to send out the note that happened. It was a very positive conversation. And go ahead.
Patricia, you've said that you think somebody should be assigned to carry this out. I know we haven't had the vote yet, but I didn't hear anybody jump in and volunteer.
I think we all recognize the size of the bear. And I don't know that one person is appropriate. I think we need probably a couple, 2 or 3 to share what's going to need to be. But the one thing that we all know for sure is that if there is not someone who takes it on, it ain't going to happen.
Well, okay, all right. We've got to have somebody to take this on. I'm willing to work to take this on. I'm hoping there's others who will join me. I've never done a public hearing virtually, and my technical skills are not, particularly broad. But, if we've got to have somebody take this on, this is important. We've got to have this hearing. I don't want to see it held up because none of us volunteered, so I will put my name forward.
Thank you, Tom. I'll be happy to work with you on it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Larry.
and I would love to do this because I like getting down to the nuts and bolts, but I'm going to be gone the 10 days prior. So that's what's scaring me off the whole project.
Understood. Thank you.
I'm scared off too.
I can support you and
Good.
Larry, Tom. So if you guys need extra help, I'm more than willing to help with sending out, I don't know, emails or figuring out the technical part. I mean, I'll do the best I can. I mean, my clicking on the phishing thing background. So I'll figure it out. I'm ready to help if you guys need help, extra help.
Terrific. Thank you, Sita.
Can the interns also help with this?
To
You
some
call
extent,
out?
yes. And
I
you
think
guys,
the first
I'm
thing that
sorry.
we're going to need to do is figure out what it is we need to do.
Right.
I will immediately get to work on that. I know that Joan did do some background work on this. I've dug out her email. She actually identified where you go to get a stenographer for this. It's apparently people that the county has used in the past to do these. And I do believe we are required to have a stenographic record of this particular hearing. No,
Tom,
you
I'm
don't
not
think so,
so sure
Patricia?
of that. I'm
Okay.
not sure of that. Yeah. I mean, if it's recorded and available.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I read a message or an email come across mentioning that if you had it recorded, it wasn't required. Maybe I read that email wrong, but
Well, we'll get clarification on it. That'll help.
Larry,
Yes, Joan.
there are 2 public relations people, one in the legislature, first name is Mary. There's also a PR person in the county exec. So you have 2 resources, one in the county executive's office and one in the legislature to help with the details and the requirements in order to do this in the group.
And I do think we can tap, Tom, you can reach out to the business analyst. I'll send that name out as soon as
No, I
can.
know John Wemple. He was there when I was still with the county, so
Okay,
no problem.
excellent.
And the Mary in the county executive's office is Mary Rozak, the director of communications.
And she was the name I was given for setting up all of the social media. So if we're doing it virtually, we have to live stream it. We would live stream it. She would help us with getting that set up. So
I think we're still delaying your vote, Larry.
If there's no further discussion of the motion that we have a public hearing on March 1st from 4 to 7 p.m. via Zoom. All in favor, raise your hand in your window.
Aye.
Thank you, Joan. Okay, that's unanimous, 7 to 0.
I just had a question.
Certainly.
For public hearings down the road, I know, I don't want to jump the gun, but I know there might be a lot of people in the community and in the county who may not always have access to online facilities, right? So I know right now, maybe public hearings in person may not work, or it's not going to work in terms of like the COVID restrictions, but I feel they might be, I don't know if we can ask council or somebody else for advice, but I think there should be some public hearings, maybe in person. I know we are really short of time because I was looking at the calendar. It's February till July, we have 6 months. I know it's a minimum of 4, if not more, but I think it's something we should maybe consider and think of, because not everybody has access to, good streaming and good computer abilities to be joining virtually. So
Beyond this first hearing, I think that we should at least have some either in person or hybrid. Certainly in person should be a potential. Yes, Patricia.
I just wanted to point out that if we do in person, it's a big county, and there had been some discussion about locale.
Yeah.
And, and the fact that you've got people who need to travel as well. So we just need to think about locale for.
Absolutely. We got to take all of that into consideration, like what's going to work best for the most number of people. Everybody who needs to be included should be included. Like, it shouldn't be a factor that they can't get to a computer, if they can't drive, if they can't have access to, it needs to be easy for the most number of people to voice their opinion. That's what I think. So
I have a question.
Yes, Joan.
So right now, as we stand, this is just for clarity. Right now, the commission is presenting the public that we just voted on, that Tom prepared for the commission, is going to be presented for the public to respond to at this public hearing. Is that what the public is coming to the public hearing to respond on?
No, the public is coming to tell us what are their concerns and what do we need to have in mind as we begin the mapping process. That's my version of it anyway.
Would there be any information out before March 1st on mapping so that the public will know exactly what you're asking them to speak on? This is why I'm asking the question. The commission hasn't presented anything for the public to respond to, and to have an open-ended question without any documentation. So I'm asking, will there be something to describe to the public about what we're doing that they will be willing to come to comment on?
We have the progress report that we just approved.
Right, that's what, that will be it.
That will be out this week. But I don't see this public hearing as being specifically in response to anything specific. Patricia, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just had a thought. So 2 things. One, Joan, so the state Independent Redistricting Commission had something similar. They called it listening session, to have input into the process before the maps were anywhere near drawn. And there was quite a bit of input. But second, what came to mind is maybe we could use it, and this would go back to the public relations, subcommittee, about maybe the first 15, 20 minutes is us educating them on what is basically, us, as well as Tom pointed out, the new state legislation about county redistricting. So maybe it could be a two-way instead of just a one-way if we have time to put something like that together.
Makes sense. John, is it?
One
is it-
follow-up.
Sure.
Patricia, does that mean the public would have that information prior to reserving or notifying us that they want to participate? They will have that information?
I would say that we need to talk to the Public Relations Committee. But it could be if we could put it together. I mean, part of public relations is really informing people just as much as it is engaging. So we just have to figure out who's doing what and the time frame around it, if there's enough time to do it.
I was waiting till we got done with our vote to raise this, but I did speak with Mary Rozak, the Director of Communications in the County Executive's Office, about the fact that we expect to hold a public hearing. I didn't have a date at the time. And I also, in the past week, spoke with the reporter from the Times-Union, who was willing to write a story about what we're doing, but wanted to have the hook of the first meeting date before he's willing to do that. And now we know when that's going to be. So I do expect to get some kind of publicity in the Times-Union about that. But the reason I called Mary Rozak was to find out a bit more about how they've done public hearings. And one of the things that I ran by her was, does the county have a contract with the Times-Union for advertising other than legals? And the answer is basically no, that you kind of negotiate that with the Times-Union. But we have a significant budget. We have a need to get our public hearings jump-started and get the public aware of what we're doing. As Joan points out, what are people reacting to? What are they going to say to us if they don't know what it is that we are doing? So I'm thinking it would be a good thing to come up with a way to catch their attention other than just by a legal notice that most people will probably skip right past. And the way that I would suggest doing it is what's called a display ad. It is an advertisement in the Times-Union that looks like a regular ad but catches people's attention because it's not newspaper copy and it's not buried back in the legals. It would be probably somewhere in the local section. You can negotiate that with the Times-Union as well. And Mary also pointed out that, like a lot of other media outlets, the Times-Union now has people who do and
Your
the
voice
question-
faded.
Froze, Tom.
targeted, let's say, the rural part of the county.
If we turn off
Try-
our cameras,
Open up.
that helps.
Yeah, turn off your camera, Tom.
Turn off the camera?
You're breaking up, Tom. We missed a half of that.
My apologies, and I'll try.
Oh, no. There are two other, while we're waiting for Tom, there are two other significant newspapers in Albany County. And plus it's the Troy Record for parts of other parts like where I live.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Talking to Mary Rozak, she indicated that not only can we come up with a display ad, an advertisement that looks like commercial ads to talk about what we're doing. And I don't know.
No.
doing something expensive just to get out there our website and the fact that we are moving on this, and here's where to go to find out more about what we've done so far. Here's where we've got our first public report that's available to the public. But I think it would be money well spent to try and do something like this, partly because we'll have a quick way to know whether we've succeeded if people are signing up to speak. That will be an indication that they are paying attention, that the ad had an effect, and that will help us, I think, in future public hearings that we're holding as well. The other thing that I mentioned that I don't know got through in my little interruption there was the Times Union apparently has people who also do have them, have little pop-ups appear when someone's looking at the Times Union online that says, we see you're a resident of Cohoes, and the public hearing for the northeast corner of the county by the redistricting commission is coming up on such and such a date. So you can tailor your message, and you can get it out there even if you wanted to just hit a certain portion of the county. But I'm thinking the first time out, we'd want to try to do the whole county. And we want to get the message out there that we're in business, that we're moving ahead, and that we're looking for people to comment about this process. And I know on our website, we do have resources. For example, we have the local law. We have our frequently asked questions about what we're doing. We have the guide that kind of helps people through the local law. So I'm hoping with all of that, if we put together with the paper a decent looking ad, and we have enough time to do that before March 1st, we'll have a better shot at getting a good attendance at that and getting plenty of speakers. And that's, after all, what we want to do.
So Tom, I'm not
One of our
sure.
first,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Patricia.
Tom, I'm not sure if you heard with all the interruptions that there are 2 other newspapers in Albany County that are significant.
Yeah, I'm
And-
assuming you mean the Spotlight papers in Colony and Bethlehem and the Altamont Enterprise.
Yeah, and there's one for the Ravina Herald as well. And those papers, just from my experience with them, which is pretty significant, if you just contact them, they'll do a story and it'll end up on page 1 or 2.
Okay, that's a good point. I think the Ravina News Herald is now run by a paper out of Catskill, but
Yep,
it is still in existence, and it does have a readership within the county.
yep.
Another paper you mentioned, Patricia, that I don't think Tom heard was Troy Record.
Oh, yeah. So the Troy Record is, I don't know how much they'll cover it. They sometimes do, but it's definitely read in Watervliet and Cohoes and so forth. But I've had less success with them, but still maybe something.
And unfortunately, Warren isn't here this evening, so he had produced a first draft, but he has not yet been able to get his committee together. And one of the first things we're going to need to figure out is how do people sign up to speak?
May I ask a question before Larry, please?
Certainly, Joan.
Could I have the name of those 4 newspapers again, please?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll be glad to give that to you, Joan. The Spotlight newspapers actually have 2 different editions. One is it's the Bethlehem Spotlight, not the Delmar Spotlight, right? The Bethlehem Spotlight
Yep.
really covers the town of Bethlehem, south of Albany. But they also started a newspaper called the Colony Spotlight that is geared towards the town of Colony. The Altamont Enterprise, despite the name, really covers a lot of what goes on in the town of Guilderland. And the Ravina News Herald, which is the last of them, is really geared towards the town of Queens and that surrounding area on the south end of the county. Did you get all those, Joan, or do you need me to go over them again?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the Altamont Enterprise covers much more than Guilderland, though. It really covers the whole hill towns. And Tom, just if you need, or if Warren needs, whatever, I have contacts that I use regularly at all of those.
Yeah, that would be good if you wouldn't mind sharing that. You know, one thing that's a positive is now with all these stories about redistricting in the paper here lately, I think if we build on that and we talk about how and decided, and that people can still put their 2 cents in on. I think there's a real shot here at capturing more people, certainly for our first public hearing.
Okay, well, our group is going to have plenty to do to try to figure out how we move forward with this. I wondered if Marie, we could get an update on how the MMD is doing and where you are with your RFPs, and have you got a full complement of members, and how you doing?
Okay, no, we still do not have a full complement of members. We have an additional application that was recently provided to us by Patrick. There's still a couple of people that are still on the list. So we're trying to get there. In terms of the RFPs, the mapping RFP just closed yesterday. We received 4 proposals that were picked up today that are in our hands that we're looking at. The legal RFP closed on the 28th. We received 1 RFP. And we have questions relative to that RFP that we've been working with procurement to get some answers to. We've also interviewed 4 interns. We've made 1 selection. We're gonna make a second selection. By Saturday, we will have made a second selection, and we expect to be bringing 2 interns on board.
You have 4 mapping and 1 legal. That's awesome.
Yes.
When do you guys think you guys will be able to like convene and like, take a look at that and see?
Well, we're looking at it now. The contract administration board meeting is on the 14th. We have to have our reviews done, now scoring and everything done by the 7th to make that meeting. So we're on track.
Thank you, Marie.
You're welcome.
Is there anything
Marie?
else we should? Yeah, yes, Patricia.
Marie, is AppGeo one of the RFP respondents?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else we?
I'm
Go ahead.
curious. I'm curious, Patricia, why did you ask?
Just to see if there was a potential for using the same vendor, that's all.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Nothing otherwise.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Marie, this is Tom. I have a question. You only have 6 of your 7, but you're going to go ahead and try and go ahead. I mean, that's certainly a majority of the MMD, but you're comfortable with moving ahead with contracts without having that 7th person yet?
Yeah, we only really need a quorum, so I think we have that.
Thank
Are you
you.
guys
I
meeting?
mean, and if we delayed work, waiting for a 7th person, we would pretty much be dead in the water.
Are you guys meeting regularly? You have a like we do, or?
Yeah, we've been having some preliminary meetings just to, keep some balls in the air and keep some things moving. We've worked on starting to draft some materials and stuff. The website stuff is getting closer, as you know.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. So I think we're moving along. I mean, I think we're all behind the 8 ball because I think this whole entire process started too late. But so, we're trying to keep things moving.
Thank you, Marie.
You're welcome.
We've reached,
I have one more thing.
yes, Marie, go ahead.
I just want to add, I am happy to assist with whatever I can assist with. I was reluctant to throw my name in the hat for the first public hearing because there's a lot of stuff going on now for MMD. And I've been doing a lot, quite a bit. So I was reluctant to throw my name in the hat, but if there's some place where I can assist with anything, if I'm able to, I'm happy to. So I just want to make that clear. And I know with the public hearings, the open meetings law comes into effect, and we have to be careful that what we're doing is going to conform to that. So I'm glad that y'all at least have your lawyer in place to start looking at those issues, because that will help us as well.
Larry, I want to raise one question. I think we've always considered that this first public hearing was going to be joint between the Redistricting Commission and the MMD. I want to make sure, Marie, you're still comfortable with that, right? It is a joint public hearing between the two bodies and whoever wants to speak.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we want to involve like council in this just to make sure we're doing everything by the book? Because I don't want, issues to come with like the ACRC is different from the MMD. We're doing everything together. So that's fine. I'm just trying to make sure we dot every I, cross every T. That's all I'm concerned about. So,
I mean, I'm not a lawyer.
yeah, me too. So
I
I'm just going by what
I don't see legal issues rising relative to us doing a public hearing jointly.
Okay.
But definitely in doing the public hearing, there are legal issues that can arise just as a result of doing the public hearing. And with any documents that we put out in the public, there's issues that can arise, because one of the things that becomes an issue sometimes is freedom of information requests. And it's like a two-way street. Sometimes stuff you put out in the public leads to freedom of information requests. And so we have to err on the side of being transparent about everything, but we also want to make sure that what we're putting out there passes the legal snuff test.
I am 100% behind you, Marie. I agree.
Okay. It's been a good meeting. I think we got a fair amount accomplished. I will let Priya know that we will be doing the kickoff on the 14th. And Patricia, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that as far as technology goes, if you need help, and I know Leif, I think, just dropped off, but I know he was one of them. If you need help, and I will put this out, that you should be going to John Wemple rather than using the help desk. And they're willing to support us. Plus also, if you feel like you need training on anything, then, let us know and they could help us find appropriate training.
Great.
Marie, sorry that we had to go forward without you yesterday, but.
No, that's all right. I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I couldn't be there.
Larry, before we close.
Yes, sir.
I am going to once again speak with Steve Hughes. That's the Times Union reporter who was interested in doing the story. Now that we have our date for this, I don't know if anybody else on the commission or someone on the MMD wants to speak with him as well. Larry, you didn't speak to him yet, did you?
Was not.
I did give him your name and email as our chair. And I have been upfront with him from the beginning. We do not have a spokesperson. I'm one of the commissioners, and I volunteered to reach out to get us some publicity about our first public hearing, but that's the sum total there. So if he wants to talk to anybody else, I believe he's got our names, and he knows where the website is, but he really seems to be focused more on what redistricting is going to be at the local level, and certainly, hopefully now on our first public hearing on March 1st.
See that?
I just want to make sure, it's like, I don't feel comfortable myself personally talking to somebody in in the press. I think in the whole thing, when we elected a chair, I thought the chair was supposed to be in charge of dealing with press. I'm not throwing you under the bus, Larry, but if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But we want to get somebody else as a point person, because you don't want like multiple different opinions coming from multiple different people on the ACRC and the MMD. The MMD needs to have their own point person, but we need to have our own point person, I think. I don't know. That's my opinion, because you don't want like.
The only name that Tom has specifically provided is mine.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Larry.
It's okay. That's what I got the
will
big bucks
point out,
for.
though, I will point out, though, that you can't stop a newspaper reporter from starting to call people.
Right.
It's just their nature.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
our
that's
names are
true, but
on the website.
I mean, are people, individual commissioners allowed to respond? And that's fine. I'm just trying to figure out like the logistics of it. So if there's a point person on the commission, if it's going to be Larry or anybody else, is everybody else allowed to say something, or are we supposed to just say no comment is my question?
I don't know.
Talk to blah, blah, talk to.
I don't
XY.
know that you or the commission are best served with a no comment.
Right.
You can suggest that they talk to somebody else.
Okay.
You can, if you know what the topic that they're talking about, you're certainly welcome to comment on it. But I think just a flat no comment is
Okay.
it does not help us in engaging them.
Okay. It's getting a little stressful there. You say things like that. It's like, what do I say? I don't want to say the wrong thing, and you know.
I think it's also part of the reason why you can't have like we can't have 7 people talking in 7 different ways. We need to have like a similar understanding of what we're doing and what our mission is, so that when we talk about it in a consistent way, because you can't be all over the place.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Good
See you
night.
Monday.
Good
See
night.
you all on Monday.
Be safe today and
See you
tomorrow.
later.